the last defense station of the Altars. System flickered its dying lights across the void as Commander Vex watched through the cracked viewport. 3 days of relentless bombardment had reduced the once mighty orbital fortress to little more than twisted metal and failing life support systems. Around him, the surviving crew members worked frantically at their stations, trying to maintain what remained of their shields while the Craven fleet closed in for the final assault. "Sir, we're down to 12% power," reported Lieutenant Kira from her engineering console. Her scaled hands trembled as she rerouted what little energy remained to the weapon systems. The main reactor took another hit during the last wave. Vex nodded grimly, his 4 eyes scanning the tactical display. 47 Craven warships surrounded their position, their angular hulls bristling with plasma cannons and missile batteries. The enemy had taken their time, methodically destroying every escape route and communication relay in the system. No distress signals had made it past the jamming field that now encompassed 3 light years in every direction. "How many civilians made it to the evacuation ships?" he asked. "Roughly 8,000, Kira replied, her voice barely above a whisper. "But they're trapped in the asteroid belt. The Craven interceptors are hunting them down one by one." The tactical officer, a young Altari named Ren, looked up from his station with hollow eyes. "Commander, we're receiving surrender demands from the Craven flagship. They're offering to spare the civilian population if we power down our weapons." Vex's mandibles clicked together in bitter laughter. The Craven had never honored such agreements before. Every world they conquered became a slave colony. Its population worked to death in their mining operations. A few survivors were kept as trophies, displayed in the victory halls of their capital ships. "Send them our response," Vex commanded, straightening to his full height. "The Altars Defense Force does not surrender." A new wave of plasma fire erupted from the Craven fleet, washing over their failing shields in waves of superheated energy. The station shuddered violently, and several more sections vented atmosphere into the vacuum. Emergency klaxons wailed throughout the corridors as bulkheads sealed automatically, trapping dozens of crew members in compartments that would soon become their tombs. "Sir, we've lost weapons grids 7 through 12, reported the weapons. "Officer, only our forward batteries are still operational." Vex closed his eyes and whispered a prayer to the Altari ancestors. His people had fought bravely, but they were outnumbered and outgunned. The Craven Empire had swept through this sector like a plague, consuming everything in its path. The Galactic Council had promised aid, but their fleets were scattered across 1,000 different battlefronts. "Commander," Ren called out, his voice filled with confusion, "I'm detecting something strange on the long-range sensors. There's a massive gravitational distortion forming near the outer system." Vex opened his eyes and moved to the sensor station. The readings made no sense. Space itself seemed to be folding in on itself, creating ripples that registered as impossible energy signatures. Whatever was causing the distortion was larger than anything in their database. Could it be a Craven superweapon? Kira asked, fear creeping into her voice. Before Vex could respond, space erupted in a brilliant flash of light. The distortion collapsed, and in its place emerged something that defied comprehension. A massive vessel, easily 10 kilometers in length, materialized from what appeared to be a tier in reality itself. Its hull was a deep gunmetal gray, covered in angular armor, plating, and bristling with weapon systems that seemed to pulse with barely contained energy. "What is that thing?" Ren whispered, his hands frozen over his controls. The unknown vessel moved with impossible grace for something so massive, accelerating toward the Craven fleet at speeds that should have torn it apart. As it drew closer, Vex could make out strange markings along its hull. The symbols were unlike anything in their cultural database, angular and efficient in their design. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission," Kira announced, her voice filled with wonder. "It's coming from the unknown vessel." The main view screen flickered to life, revealing a bipedal figure in what appeared to be a military uniform. The being had pale skin, short brown hair, and two forward-facing eyes that held an intensity Vex had never seen before. When it spoke, its voice was calm and measured, carrying an undertone of barely restrained violence. "This is Captain Reed of the U.E.'s Retribution. Altari vessels, you are ordered to stand down and withdraw to minimum safe distance. We are assuming tactical control of this engagement." Vex stared at the screen in amazement. "Human," he breathed. The legendary species that had emerged from the Outer Rim only decades ago. Stories of their military prowess had spread throughout the galaxy, but most dismissed them as exaggerated tales. The Craven fleet had also noticed the newcomer. Their formations shifted as they brought their weapons to bear on the human warship. Vex watched in fascination as the enemy commander transmitted his own message, demanding that the humans withdraw or face destruction. Captain Reed's expression never changed. "Negative. You have 5 seconds to begin immediate withdrawal from this system. Comply or be destroyed." The Craven response was predictable. 47 warships opened fire simultaneously, launching everything they had at the human vessel. Plasma bolts, missiles, and energy beams converged on the Retribution. In a display of firepower that should have reduced any ship to molten slag, the human warship didn't even slow down. Point defense systems that moved faster than the eye could follow intercepted the incoming projectiles, while energy shields absorbed the plasma fire without so much as a flicker. The Retribution continued its steady approach, weapons systems powering up with an ominous hum that somehow carried across the vacuum of space. "All batteries," Captain Reed commanded, his voice cutting through the chaos. "Open fire." What followed could only be described as systematic annihilation. The human warship's weapons spoke with a voice of thunder, each shot precisely targeted and devastatingly effective. Craven ships that had taken days to disable were reduced to expanding clouds of debris in seconds. The enemy formation crumbled. As their commanders realized, they faced something beyond their understanding. Within minutes, the Craven fleet ceased to exist. The survivors, those few ships that had managed to escape the initial barrage, fled toward the system's edge incomplete. Panic. The human warship made no effort to pursue them, instead turning its attention to the trapped civilian vessels. "Altari ships, this is Captain Reed. Medical and engineering teams are being dispatched to assist with your evacuation. You've fought well, but this battle is over." Vex slumped in his command chair, overwhelmed by the sudden reversal of fortune. Around him, his crew stared in stunned silence at the viewscreen, watching as human shuttles moved to assist the damaged civilian. "Transports." "Sir," Kira whispered, "how did they know we were here?" Vex looked at the human warship, its hull unmarked despite the massive bombardment it had endured. "I don't know," he admitted, "but I'm grateful they came." As rescue operations began, Vex reflected on the stories he'd heard about humanity. They were a young species, barely a century into their space age, yet they had already earned a reputation as the galaxy's most feared warriors. Some said they were driven by an insatiable need to protect the innocent. Others claimed they simply enjoyed a good fight. Watching the human shuttles work tirelessly to save his people, Vex suspected the truth was somewhere in between. These beings had emerged from the void, not as conquerors, but as guardians. And for the first time in weeks, he allowed himself to hope that the galaxy might survive the Craven threat after all.